I've got a little project here on this. This is a BSA Gold Star cylinder barrel, and it has some problems over here. What happened was that in order to get a washer out of this recess, was knocked through from the other side, and instead of knocking the washer out, they caught the edge of the fin, which unfortunately, with a bit of persuasion, broke off. So, yeah, what we've got to do is try and weld it back on. And of course, in order to get to this, 1, 2, 3, 4 fins above it were in the way. So they have now also been cut out and will have to be replaced one by one, working up from the bottom. So all in all, a bit of a palaver. I've no idea what this is going to be like to weld. Cast aluminium, it should be okay. I have had problems with something similar cracking before. I did a broken fin repair on an Aerial Square 4, and yeah, the weld was always cracking. So I hope we're not going to get that problem with this. I think one of the problems is going to be that these things are pretty thin, and they're very thin towards the edge. So the edges are going to melt away without too much persuasion. Whereas the barrel itself obviously is quite a lump. So I think it might be a good idea to warm the whole thing up. Yeah, we'll clean it up as best we can. It's going to be awkward because we can only weld from one side. We'll do a little bit of prep here, try and clean it as much as we can, but there's a limit to what we can do. And yeah, we'll have to see how we go on. But I'm going to have a practice go on something else. This is a cylinder barrel off of a Vincent. It's a reject barrel. Kind of strange. You can see that the liner had not been fully in contact with the casting, the aluminium casting. So this would need to be rebored and fitted with an oversized liner, or at least oversized on the outside diameter. So as it stands, it's not super useful, and in any case it wouldn't be that difficult to make one of these. It's not very big, it's basically round with some cutouts where the pushrod tubes go, but yeah, it wouldn't be difficult to make one of those. So this is kind of disposable, and I'm going to cut some cut some grooves along here and see if I can break some fins off, and then we'll see if we can't weld them back on again. I think it's interesting to compare these two barrels. They're both 500 cc's, if you like. Gold Star's 500cc single, the Vincent, it might be off of a single, it might be off of a twin, but it will be a 500cc pot. First, it's so much shorter than the BSA. And also, it's a lot smaller. Not a lot of finning around it, really, not compared to this. Oops, just tipping one of the old broken fins off. This is huge in comparison. So yeah, quite a contrast. Okay, one. There's not a lot of metal in that. Thin like the BSA fins, and this is only a small piece as well. Seeing as there's not much finning on this, well, I suppose it'd be worth cutting a couple more off. Maybe. They're a bit filthy, they're going to need to clean, a good clean. Let's cut a couple more out. This is not that brittle, shall we say. I can't imagine you would easily snap this off by accident, so this is maybe a different alloy to the BSA barrel. So whatever we learned from welding this up might not necessarily apply totally to the BSA. Don't know. Okay, we'll do one more. I'm probably distorting this by doing it like this. Oh, that is soft. That is very soft. Wow. Okay. It's a good job this is a reject barrel. There we go. Number 3. Well, let's give this a clean up and see how they go. I'm trying to put them back on there, and I've just flipped that over. That was that way around, wasn't it? Okay. Don't know if this was such a good idea. This looks like this was painted. Thought it was just dirt, but this might have actually been a black painted barrel, possibly off a shadow, black shadow possibly, I've no idea. But yeah, we need to get the paint and crap off of it before we think about welding it. All this just for an experiment, flipping heck. Well, that's a lot cleaner than it was. I don't know, maybe 95%. You can never be too clean really with alley welding, but the trouble with the casting is that the surface finish is kind of mottled. So where this is painted, you can see it more on the pieces that were cut off. You still got paint in the pits of the surface of the casting, so that would take a lot of grinding to get rid of that, which would mean reducing the thickness. Oh, should it be done? I don't know. I'm going to try it like it is. Give a wipe over with some alcohol, clean it up. And yeah, I expect there to be a load of crap coming out of it, as per normal with castings, especially old castings. These things must be, 1950 something. I think the Gold Star is late 50s, 58ish, something like that, because the early ones didn't have so much finning on them. This Vincent barrel, I don't know, similar vintage I suppose, 55ish. Crikey, same age as me. Yeah, and over the years they absorb stuff, although the paint may have helped stop that happening with this one. Don't know. We shall find out. Let's see if we can somehow fix the fins on here. We're obviously starting with the smallest one, first one that we can get to. Yeah, try and clamp that in somehow. Gold. I think a bit of preheating would be worth doing here as well. Right, I've got a bit of copper. I think it's about 2mm sheet. Kind of wedged into the gap between the fins, and I'm just going to lay this piece on top. I've got quite a gap at each end, there and there. That's going to cause me problems. That's going to want to melt away to nothing, because this is really thin as well. I guess just try and tack it in the middle somewhere to hold it in place. See how we go from there. Well, we started off not too bad actually. From that little tack there, and just working along this way. And I stopped and had a look, and it looked like this was pulling in, so I thought, well, let's turn it round, start from here and try and work this way. And yeah, that's when it all started going wrong. I could not get enough heat into this, and this was melting away. And the temptation is always to put some rod in to stop it melting away, try and control the heat, but we've ended up with a big blob here, and that has pulled this in. There was a gap there to start with, and that's pulled right in, so I'm gonna grind or file this lump off, see if we can pull this out a bit, and yeah, go from there. Well, I just tried to tie this end in, and kind of as expected, the point of this has just melted away. At first I thought, well, I'll put a little bridge across here and I might be able to just save it, but no, it's all sucked in here. So this is going to have to be built up now. Once we get this, I need to come across here. There's a hole there now. I need to bridge that gap and then continue along here. Oh, well, I knew it was going to be awkward, tricky, and sure enough it is. So we'll have another go, try and get along here. Oh, and we've still got to try and do this end as well. Yeah, this is where I could really do with a pedal on the machine. Just trying to set the amps on the machine and controlling the torch with a button is a bit tricky. I've got downslope set, and even getting that right is a bit hit and miss, but we will persist. Oh dear, same happened at this end as well. This is just balled up. This pointy piece is just yeah, all melted away. Kind of expected, but I don't know if that is really attached to that. I hope so, and we'll just have to try and build this up again and file it all back to shape. Well, we're getting there. A few little wrinkles left in here after some filing and sanding down, so a bit more filing and sanding down might get rid of that. This was awkward because the join was so close to the fin above, so I don't know if we can get in. I don't know if we can see in there. That's kind of the edge of the weld there. It's not too bad. Once the one on top's in place, you're not going to see that. And equally, can see. Oh, can we see underneath there? Can we see the join? Because obviously I've only welded on top. So in there. Oh, right, I don't think you can see it. Get the right angle and you can see the join inside there, but yeah, just about see that in there, I think. But again, once that's all put together, once that's on an engine, not that this one is ever going to go back on an engine, but I think that's okay. That will work. So I'll give this a little bit more of a rub down and then we'll try the next one up. Right, I think you can see the join in there, but I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's fine. About as good as you can expect, really. And on the other side, yeah, I think that's okay as well. Right, I've been having so much harder time getting things to flow here on this second fin, and yeah, I just realised why. It's because there's this great big fillet of metal under here between the two fins, which is obviously acting as a much bigger heatsink. It wasn't there underneath, so I'm just changing up to 332 tungsten so I can whack the power up a bit. I don't like to go more than 80 amps with a 16th tungsten. I tend to get a bigger ball on the end of the tungsten. I like a ball, but not once it gets too big. So yeah, going up to 332 and see if we can get this to flow a bit better. Right, that was really awkward. I'm trying to get this hot enough up here. I'm melting the next one up along here. Obviously I'm trying to aim the arc here, kind of, because I didn't want to be burning through the fin. So yeah, that was really hard to do that, trying to get the balance between not coming up too far, not coming over this way too far. Tricky. It's kind of stuck together. We've got to do this bit at the end here, and similar up the other end as well. Yeah, awkward. Well, that's two fins back on, smoothed off. And yeah, you can see the joint at the moment. Whether you'll see it once the top one's on, and if you could ever see it when it's back on the bike, I don't know. So we've got one more to go, and this is going to be the worst one because this fin is really thin here. Not even a 1/16 of an inch, 1.5 mil. Probably only a millimetre right at the end there. Whereas that's going on to a big chunky ring here. Oh, the previous one was hard because we were trying to attach it to this lump. Bit of porosity coming through there, but in general I would say this thing is welding quite nice. But yeah, this top one is going to be tricky because it's going to be a pretty thin piece onto a really fat bit. Okay, so there we go, and we're bound to melt into this as well. Yeah, well, it's only a practice piece, so it's not super crucial. Thought I'd see if I could just tack the end while it was cold. Ha! Yeah, and even though I was trying to aim the arc at this piece, there's too much power going. I think I had 65 amps on, which 1/16 of an inch. Oh, you'd think that wouldn't be too far away, but yeah, that's curled up, bored up straight away. Turned it down, and managed to kind of get these things connected. Big blob on there which will need a lot of rubbing down, filing off, whatever. So not a great start. I think I may try and pre-warm this a bit. I plonked this on here to try and hold the other end down because that's lifted up a bit. That is not quite. Yeah, I need that held down. That's probably all going to melt into a blob at the end here anyway, but fun and games continues. Same thing going on at the other end. I even had a kind of a heat sink across the top here, and yeah, it just burns up. This just balls up straight away. As you get a little connection here, this is tilting up, as you kind of expect it would, but we'll just have to bend it down before we finish. Okay. And as we're coming along here, we're getting closer to this lump, which is taking all the heat away. And not so much there, I did this one first, and as I'm coming along here, this is starting to burn through without getting this molten. Yeah, I'm going to need more power to heat this piece up, and I'm going to have to be very careful not to just melt this away. I suppose you could even leave that like that, smooth this off at each end, fill in the missing bits that have been melted away, and if that wasn't attached, then yeah, you could possibly live with that if it was all put back together. Not ideal. We'll see how we can, if we can actually join this along here. I'm going to change the tungsten back up to 332 first. Actually, I thought I'd build these bits up first before I switched out to a fatter tungsten. It's a bit blobby, but we can soon file that back. Well, once that started flowing, that went very nicely across there. I was up to 140 amps to get that to go, and obviously I had to, once that went, I had to get a move on. I've put the bit of copper packing underneath the fin again. I think possibly that helped. But yeah, that looks very nice. I'm going to be ashamed to just try to smooth all that off now. Doesn't look like we've got much penetration coming through there though. Never mind, 'tis what it is. Yeah, we'll be able to smooth the top side off. Of course, when it comes to doing the Gold Star, we're working the other way up. We've been doing these from the top side. The Gold Stars are all going to be from the bottom, but hopefully it'll be more hidden. So, right, time to clean the top up. Actually, time to let that cool down a bit before we start cleaning that up. That is pretty warm at the minute. Yeah. Right, I think this is not too terrible after smoothing all the welds off. We can see where the weld was, you know, where it was welded. It was welded across there, and we can see it here too. A bit of a hole there. If I was being ultra fussy, I could go over that and maybe try and fill that in, but this was only an experiment anyway, so I thought, no, this is good enough for this. And I think if this was a proper job and it was going to go back on the bike, maybe this would get blasted and repainted black, and I don't think you would notice the repair. We can see the underside though is not too clever on all three of those fins. You can see the join. So that may or may not be an issue when it comes to doing the Gold Star barrel, because we're doing it the other way up. But well, we can only do what we can do and hope that it looks okay. Long drawn out process though. This was only 3 fins and it's taken ages. Gold Star's got 5 fins to put back on. Cracky. Might end up being more expensive than another barrel, but I think they're like rocking horse shit, or you know, just unobtainium. So yeah, it might be the only thing that's possible to do. We shall see. But this one, I think this experiment is done and dusted, and yeah, I'm quite happy with the conclusion of this. Looks okay.